you have to have such a crazy language anyway? In Spanish, you don't have all those ow, o, oo, of, oof sounds.
Standard Southern British English, SSBE, has 20 vowels and diphthongs. General American English has 19. What's the difference? SSBE has the O sound, which is less common in American English. So I say, a hot dog got lost. And in General American, it's something like a hot dog got lost.
That's why in British English, quart and cot are pronounced differently, but in American English, they're pronounced the same.
Hot, hot.
1920, that's still a lot. Spanish has 5 vowels and 5 diphthongs. Japanese has but 5 vowels. English has more vowel sounds than most European languages, though less than Danish with 27. English doesn't have front rounded vowels. That's why this Danish word
bøgetræ
is more difficult to pronounce for English speakers than this Spanish word.
Patatas.
Even I can say it, patatas. Even Danish, though, has far fewer vowels than Cambodian, which has up to 36. Try saying this.
Bê đôn.
And as for tonal languages, such as Chinese languages, Thai and Vietnamese, that's a whole different story.
Ma, 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 ma.
These are the words near and far in Thai. The only difference is the tone, so you'd better get it right.
ใกล้ ใกล้
Languages with fewer vowels tend to be easier to pronounce for learners. That explains why Japanese is a difficult language to master in terms of grammar and vocabulary, but it's easier to pronounce for most English speakers than French.
가기야. serrurier.
Having a greater inventory of vowel sounds in your native tongue is an advantage when learning the pronunciation of foreign languages, as their sounds may be already familiar to you. Though this is not the whole picture, you have to know what we do and what we don't do with those vowels. Hello, my name's Gideon and I've been a teacher of English as a foreign language for over 20 years, and I've learnt a few languages myself. And in this video I'm going to share some fascinating insights into the secret life of English vowels and why this letter is a pain in the arse. I'll explain why learners of English sound foreign and why you sound like an English speaker when speaking a foreign language. And if you're hell-bent on improving your accent, the phonetic tomfoolery outlined in this video might help just a little bit. I don't have a silver bullet. If you're learning English after watching this video, you're not going to start sounding like a cast member of Downton Abbey.
The fact is, this family is responsible for the whole ghastly debacle.
So if you're an English speaker learning a foreign language, perhaps you want to sound a little bit less like Mayor Bloomberg.
Es probable que veamos lluvias y vientos fuertes y algunas áreas pueden ser inundadas.
And more like Bradley Cooper.
J'ai pas inquiété à faire de défaut, hein. Tu sais, je peux communiquer, hein. Je sais que mon grammaire c'est débile, mais je veux communiquer et c'est pourquoi je fais la répétition toujours.
Part 1. The consonants. Before we get on to the vowels, let's have a brief look at how we use consonants in English. Now, English, the English language, is quite good at consonants. We can put several together in consonant clusters. These phrases are easy for native speakers to say, but challenging for many learners of English. Crisps, clothes, strengths and weaknesses. He asked them. Next spring, the 12th stop. English can manage quite a long sequence of consonants, though not as many as Polish. Take a deep breath and try pronouncing this.
Bezwzględny.
Welsh also has quite a few consonant sounds that we don't have in English.
llanelli,
In English, though, we are able to put voiceless and voiced consonants at the end of words. In voiceless consonants, your vocal cords stay open, like cat, the T in cat, sun, fish. Voiced consonants, the vocal cords close and you create the kind of a buzz sound. Rub, sing, five, fizz. Germans, for example, have difficulty with voiced consonants at the end of words. That's why Germans sometimes change a voice Z to an S sound.
Regular meetings and phone calls and concessions on both sides.
A German speaker might pronounce raise and race the same. In English, you can end a phrase with a T sound, but, cat. In Italian, you can't, so sometimes they'll add another vowel at the end.
My heart was really beating.
Some languages, such as Italian and Japanese, rarely have more than two consonants together. In Japanese, chocolate cake is pronounced.
チョコレートケーキ、
Sometimes even English speakers take shortcuts with certain consonant clashes. For example, handbag. Most speakers will simplify it to handbag.
If I hadn't joked about it, he would never have suspected it was in her handbag.
We also say best friend instead of best friend, clothes instead of clothes, text message, not text message, and we used to say iced cream, but we started saying ice cream because of the consonant clash, and it stuck, even though ice cream doesn't make any sense. It's cream that has been iced. And if you want to learn more about how we really speak English, then do check out this video here. But in spite of that, English speakers are pretty good at consonant sequences. There are limits though. For example, you can put an NG at the end of a word, like sing, but not at the beginning.
Such as in this Thai word.
งาน
The vowels. Yes, we have lots of vowels in English, but what we can't do is put them in sequence. And this poses a problem if you're learning a language which does have vowel sequences. For example, I live in France, so let me share my pain as an English learner of French.
Un brouillard humide.
Or this.
un billet pour le RERA et un orangina.
That's enough to make you choke on your millefeuille. So in French you can have 2, 3, 4 consecutive vowel sounds, while in English the number is, can you guess? Well, for most English speakers, I stress most English speakers, it's 1. Yes, that's right, 1 measly vowel sound, a monophthong or a diphthong, not even 2 consecutive vowels.
So let's take a closer look at some English vowels and how we use them in speech. We'll begin with the E vowel. When it appears at the end of a word, it often tails off into a faint Y sound, E.
For example, see it. Now you have an E sound followed by an I, except you don't. Most English speakers will place a Y between the E and the I so that 2 vowel sounds don't clash. So it's E, Y, I.
Because I felt I'd better see it again. Maybe I'd read it again.
Teachers call this the linking Y, but that might be inaccurate because C is usually pronounced with a Y sound at the end, even if it's not followed by a vowel. Most speakers will say C and not C.
I see that same spirit in you.
As indicated in the title.
I see.
This explains why English speakers will say a Spanish word like fiesta as fiesta, with a Y in the middle that isn't there.
Gay Pride's Technicolor Fiesta.
You'll notice that there are very few English words ending with an I, and the ones that there are usually loan words, such as sushi, kaki, ski, and these are pronounced, I just pronounce them with a Y at the end. So yeah, in English we say sushi, while the Japanese say
sushi.
This is important advice if you're a learner of English and you want to sound more natural. Remember the faint Y tail. It's E, not I, at the end of words. Me, not me. Be, not be. He, she, ni. And yes, you'll often hear the Y connect to the next word. Tea and coffee, free at last. We all know. In British varieties of English especially, the E sound naturally glides towards a Y sound before an L. So you get steal, feel, deal, meal. And if you're learning a foreign language, you want to avoid that phantom Y if it's not there in the target language. English words never end in an O sound. English words rarely end in an O sound. Instead, say O.
So, for example, do I? Yeah, some speakers might say this, but the vast majority of native English speakers will say do I, do I. Even on its own, do is pronounced with a little W at the end, do.
If you're speaking a foreign language, be careful not to replace an O sound with an O sound.
No comprendo, amigo.
If you're an English learner, remember that many English words ending in an O or an OW, as well as the word don't, are pronounced with this O sound.
So I've been teaching English for years, and often a student will introduce themselves to me by saying hello or hello. But no, you can't end the English word with an O sound, so we say hello. And don't say go, say go. Hello, no, I don't go. But if foreign words are imported into English as loan words, then we should use the English pronunciation, shouldn't we? So you say you ordered an Americano at the cafe and not an Americano at the cafe, unless you want the barista to throw hot coffee in your face for being a pretentious git.
In English, you can't end a word with an E sound. It usually gets replaced by an E. So chili con carne becomes...
Expect to have beans in a chili con carne, so...
Per la pasta fresca, tagliatelle.
Becomes...
mushrooms with pasta, tagliatelle.
And...
karaoke.
Becomes...
bachelorette party who wants to do karaoke, but the karaoke machine is broken.
Here you get three changes. English doesn't allow that kara o at the beginning, so it becomes carry.
Karaoke.
And what about this word? T-O. How do we pronounce it? It's very rare that we say to. It's usually pronounced t. And that brings us neatly onto the most common vowel sound in the English language, the schwa. Yes, that's right. In English, unstressed vowels get reduced to a schwa sound, an sound. Let me give you an example with these words. For a long time. But of course, we don't say that, do we? We say for a long time, because long is stressed and time is stressed, but not for an A. So they are reduced to the sound. And this is one of the most difficult things for learners of English pronunciation. They often don't take into account whether a vowel is stressed or unstressed. To is rarely pronounced like the number 2. So we say to be or not to be, unless you're a Shakespearean actor hamming it up and you say, I'm going to the gym. I'm going to the gym. of is also pronounced of, almost always, as in think of me. And in longer words, the unstressed syllables will become a schwa sound there too. So for example, we say international. Sometimes the vowel is lost altogether, international. Once again, it works both ways, so don't use a schwa in a language that doesn't have them. So in Spanish,
Patatas.
it's not patatas. Let's now talk about your R's. The R sound. So many ways to say it across the languages of the world, and even in English there are different ways to say it. In Spanish it's rolled, as in
El perro de Ramón Rodríguez.
And in French it's an uvular fricative made from vibrations at the back of the throat. So the French say
Rare.
and not rare. In Czech it's a tapped R, like this.
Bratr.
Interestingly, in medieval English, we also had a tapped R. So, for example, from the Canterbury Tales by Chaucer,
One at April, with a sure suitor, the drocht of March hath perished to the rooter, and bathed every vine in sweet liqueur.
Watch this video if you want to hear a conversation in Middle English from 1399. As far as modern English is concerned, SSBE is non-rhotic. That is, we don't pronounce the R unless it comes before a vowel. Whereas in the west of England, in Scottish accents and general American, speech is rhotic. In SSBE, the unstressed R sound indicates that the preceding vowel is a long vowel. Car, mother, tower. In general American English, on the other hand, R is pronounced. Something like car, mother, tower. In SSBE, the R is pronounced in a phrase if the final word is an R and the next word in the phrase is a vowel. So, for example, mother and father. So here the R is pronounced mother because the next word is and, which begins with a vowel. Another example of that, here and there. Now, some speakers may say here and there, but that's rare. Sounds quite aristocratic. An intrusive R. This is when you put an R when there is no R in the word. So look at this word. The first part of the word is draw, ending in an or vowel. And the next part is ing, ending in an I vowel. Now, you'd think that because draw ends in a W, that this is the sound that should be pronounced to avoid a vowel clash. Drawing, drawing. But we don't. An or sound followed by an E will be connected by the R sound. So it's drawing, which confuses a lot of English learners. And as always, if you're learning English, you must focus on the sounds. Listen closely to how the word is said and not the spelling. English spelling is all just an English conspiracy to confuse foreigners, like separate hot and cold taps and carpeted bathrooms and beans on toast.
The intrusive R is particularly common in southern British English and Australian English, but less so in American English.
And so the whole thing ended up going back to the drawing board.
In return for law and order and a chance to get rich.
But I think just the idea of it...
I saw a film today, oh boy.
If you like this type of content, then why not become a Patreon? You'll get exclusive content there. You can also join my newsletter, The Rambler. It's free. It's all about the history of the English language and stuff like that. You'll find a link to both of these in the description. That's all for now. Have a beautiful day. Bye.